Thank you all for being here. My name is Jerry Dietrich, Public Participation Specialist for the Department of Toxic Substances Control. To access the slides for tonight, please visit DTSC's Envirostore database at www.envirostore.dtsc.ca.gov. There, you'll search by entering CAD 980-884-183. You'll see the facility name pop up, so go ahead and click on it, and then you'll navigate to the Community Involvement tab where the slides are located. We're also providing a live link in the chat for your convenience. Slide 3. Automated closed captions are being provided for this meeting. You can turn them off by clicking the CC icon or the live captions icon at the bottom of your screen, and then choosing Hide Subtitle or moving the caption box to another part of your screen. Please note that these captions are provided for convenience only and are not the official transcript of this meeting. As you've probably seen, for tonight's meeting, the chat box will be used to broadcast information out to you as we move through the slides. We've heard from some of you that this is a helpful way to have a fixed place for the links, emails, and phone numbers that we'll be sharing with you throughout the presentation. Next slide, please. Tonight's meeting agenda includes a presentation by DTSC staff, followed by a presentation from GEM. Afterwards, we'll have a Q&A section, followed by a 5-minute break, and then we'll come back with public comments. During the public comments, each person will have up to 5 minutes to provide their public comments. Slide 5, please. By participating in this meeting, you understand that this meeting is being recorded for the public record, and you may be muted for background noise. The recording will be posted on the Envirostore database page for GEM as soon as it's available. During the Q&A, we will focus on answering questions related to this evening's presentations. As always, we will do our best to listen and address all the questions that come during the Q&A. In the interest of time, we ask that you limit the number of your questions to make room for others who may not have had time to participate yet. We thank you for your patience and understanding as we navigate this collaborative space together. It's weird for all of us, I know. Next slide. The purpose of tonight's VSP 2019 and 2020 Tier Assignment Challenge public meeting is to provide GEM an opportunity to present their opposition to the unacceptable compliance tier and to provide the public with an opportunity to speak on it. If you missed it before, the meeting slides are available on DTSC's Envirostore database at www.envirostore.dtsc.ca.gov. There, you'll search by entering CAD 980-884-183. Click on the facility name and then navigate to the Community Involvement tab. Again, we're posting a link to the chat for your convenience. For members of the public, please call Sanford NACS in the DTSC Office of Communications at sanford.nacs@dtsc.ca.gov. We'll also post that information to the chat for you. Slide 7, please. Here at DTSC, our commitment and pledge is aligned with our organizational mission, which is to protect California's people, communities, and environment from toxic substances, to enhance economic vitality by restoring contaminated land, and to compel manufacturers to make safer consumer products. At this time, I'd like to introduce Nadine Doman, Project Manager for DTSC's Permitting Division. Nadine?
Hi, I am Nadine Doman, the Project Manager in the Permitting Division at the Department of Toxic Substances Control. I will be presenting in an overview of the violation scoring procedure and the basis of the 2019 and 2020 compliance tier assignments for GEM. Next slide, please. The violations scoring procedure, or VSP, is a new program that was developed in response to the passage of Senate Bill 673. Which was introduced by Senator Lara in 2015. VSP scores have been calculated annually since 2019 and consider facility compliance history over the prior 10 years. The VSP score is used to place facilities into one of three compliance tiers: acceptable, conditionally acceptable, or unacceptable. Slide 10, please. Here are the steps of the violation scoring procedure. Step 1, DTSC enforcement calculated the VSP score for each violation based on potential for harm, extent of deviation, and frequency. Step 2, a provisional VSP score is issued to the permittee. The permittee has an opportunity to dispute it. Step 3, a final VSP score is released by the dispute resolution officer. The compliance tier assignment is determined from the final VSP score and the permittee is notified. The permittee has an opportunity to challenge the unacceptable compliance tier assignment within 60 days. Step 4, within 60 days of the challenge submittal, DTSC schedules the public meeting and mails a public notice. DTSC holds a public meeting. DTSC presents the reasons for the tier assignment. The permittee presents its opposition to the tier assignment. Public comments are accepted. Step 5, DTSC considers public comments and the permittee's challenge to make a decision for the final tier assignment within 60 days of the public meeting. Slide 11, please. These are the VSP scores for each type of compliance tier assignments. The acceptable tier is assigned to a VSP score of less than 20. The conditionally acceptable tier is assigned to a VSP score equal to or greater than 20 and less than 40. Unacceptable tier is assigned for a VSP score equal to or greater than 40. For the conditionally acceptable tier assignment, the facility must schedule compliance audits. DTSC may impose other requirements to mitigate potential harm or non-compliance. For the unacceptable tier assignment, DTSC shall initiate the permit denial or revocation process. DTSC may issue a permit within a term of 5 years or less and may impose other compliance provisions and mitigation measures. Slide 12, please. These are DTSC's required responses. DTSC will send a notice of the final tier assignment within 60 days of the public meeting. If the unacceptable tier is upheld, then the notice will include DTSC's decision to initiate the process to deny, suspend, or revoke the facility permit. DTSC may ultimately grant a conditional permit to a facility within the unacceptable tier that demonstrates the following. 1, DTSC finds that the operations will not pose a threat to human health, safety, or the environment. Number 2, the owner and operator implemented enforceable improvements to operations. Number 3, operation of the facility provides substantial overriding benefits to the people of California. Number 4, the permit term may not exceed 5 years. Number 5, the permit must include enhanced compliance terms, including audits. Number 6, the permit must include mitigation measures for all potential harm associated with non-compliant activities. If DTSC changes the compliance tier to conditionally acceptable, the facility must meet the associated requirements such as audits. Slide 13, please. GEM is a hazardous waste transfer and storage facility that is located at 11855 White Rock Road in Rancho Cordova, California, 95741. GEM conducts storage and treatment of RCRA and non-RCRA hazardous waste. Operations include packaging waste, repackaging, and bulking of waste in containers. Containers are shipped to a recycler or off-site permitted facility. Slide 14, please. VSP score and tier assignment are determined annually. The 2019 final VSP score was 85.88, with the final VSP compliance tier assignment as unacceptable. The 2020 final VSP score was 86.97, with the final VSP compliance tier assignment as unacceptable. Per an agreement between DTSC and GEM, This meeting covers GEM's challenge to the 2019 and 2020 compliance tier assignments. Slide 15, please. For the GEM 2019 VSP timeline, on September 27, 2019, DTSC issued a provisional 2019 VSP score. On December 19, 2019, GEM disputed the provisional 2019 VSP score. On February 23, 2021, DTSC made a final decision to the 2019 VSP score dispute. On April 27, 2021, DTSC issued the final 2019 VSP score and tier assignment. On May 28, 2021, GEM submitted a challenge to the 2019 tier assignment. Today is the tier challenge public meeting. Within 60 days, DTSC will make a decision on GEM's tier challenge. Slide 16, please. For the GEM 2020 VSP timeline, on September 30th, 2020, DTSC issued the provisional 2020 VSP score. On November 25th, 2020, GEM submitted a dispute to the 2020 VSP score. On March 17th, 2021, DTSC ruled on the dispute to the 2020 VSP score. On April 27th, 2021, DTSC issued the final 2020 VSP score and tier assignment. On May 28th, 2021, GEM submitted a tier challenge to the 2020 VSP tier assignment. Today is the tier challenge public meeting. Within 60 days, DTSC will make a decision on GEM's tier challenge. Slide 17, please. This is a summary of GEM's compliance history over time. Class 1 violations are the most severe and involve significant actual or potential risk to human health or safety or the environment. GEM was inspected 10 times between 2009 and 2018. GEM received a total of 54 Class 1 violations and 4 Class 2 violations. For full details on compliance history, please see documents in EnviroStore at www.dtsc.ca.gov. Slide 18, please. For the VSP calculation methodology, a compliance evaluation inspection or focus compliance inspection is combined with a financial records review. A total of 10 inspections that occurred between 2009 and 2018 were considered in the calculation of the 2019 VSP score. A total of 9 inspections that occurred between 2011 and 2018 were considered in the calculation of the 2020 VSP score. Slide 19, please. The majority of the Class 1 violations calculated in the VSP scores were violations for mixing incompatible hazardous waste, container storage, and training. There were 21 Class 1 violations for mixing incompatible hazardous waste that cause a chemical reaction and release. There were 25 Class 1 violations for not meeting container storage requirements. There were 7 Class 1 violations for not meeting training requirements. These violations resulted in a final 2019 VSP score of 85.88 and a 2020 VSP score of 86.97 with unacceptable compliance tiers. In the following slides, I will summarize the violations. More specific details about each violation can be found in EnviroStore at www.dtsc.ca.gov. Slide 20, please. Here is a summary of 21 violations for mixing incompatible hazardous waste. Hazardous waste was mixed together that created a chemical reaction such as a gas, fire, and explosion. GEM failed to operate in a manner to prevent a release of hazardous waste. GEM failed to notify DTSC within 24 hours of discovering the release. According to GEM's operation plan in the permit application, the facility is required to perform compatibility testing in the laboratory to obtain written approval from the chemist prior to consolidating hazardous waste. GEM failed to properly manage the materials that created the release. Slide 21, please. Here's a summary of 25 violations for container storage. Failure to properly manage hazardous waste containers, stored containers in an unauthorized area, failure to segregate containers of incompatible waste, failure to store hazardous waste in clean containers, failure to maintain adequate pile space, failure to properly label containers, stored hazardous waste in an amount exceeded the permitted capacity for the permitted unit. Slide 22, please. Here's a summary of the 7 training violations. Failed to properly train personnel, failed to maintain training documents and records. Regulations require facilities to provide hazardous waste training to employees who will work with hazardous waste, including understanding the dangers associated with managing hazardous waste and emergency procedures at the facility. Slide 23, please. DTSC will consider all public comments and relevant evidence presented today before making a final decision on the compliance tier assignment. DTSC will review the challenge basis items in the California Code of Regulations, section 66271.57D 1 through 5. The facility must demonstrate that 1, the owner operator is able to operate in compliance. 2, the facility as constructed is able to operate in compliance. 3, continued operation is unlikely to adversely affect human health, safety, or the environment. 4, compliance with financial assurance and liability requirements. 5, audit report. An ongoing pattern of compliance with all applicable requirements and full implementation of actions to correct deficiencies and address findings of prior audits. At this time, I will turn over the presentation back to Jerry.
Thank you, Nadine. That was certainly a lot of information. To view the 2019 and 2020 public notice, community update, dispute letters, final VSP score and tier assignments, compliance tier challenge, and the enforcement inspection reports, you can visit the DTSC Envirostore database at the www.envirostore.dtsc.ca.gov. Again, you'll do the same thing. Enter CAD 980-884-183. Click on the facility name and navigate to the Community Involvement tab. You can also visit the information repository at the DTSC Sacramento Regional Office at 8800 Cal Center Drive, Sacramento, California, 95826. You'll need to call them for an appointment. So their phone number is 916-255-3758. You can call Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. And we're also providing all of this information in the chat. Next slide, please. At this part of our meeting, GEM will provide their presentation. I'd like to invite Daniel Brunton, representing GEM, to share their slides and begin his presentation. Daniel?
Thank you and good evening. I'm Daniel Brunton of Latham & Watkins, appearing for the Clean Earth Rancho Cordova Recycling Facility. Please give me just a moment as I call up my slides. Tonight, we are challenging the 2019 and 2020 scores and tier assignment under the new VSP program. These scores place the facility in an unacceptable compliance tier, and if left unaltered, would compel closure of a facility that is important to the public in achieving the state's ambitious household hazardous waste recycling goals. Significantly, in October 2018, only 3 months before commencement of the VSP program, DTSC and the Rancho Cordova facility entered into a stipulated judgment approved by a court calling for independent compliance auditing and literally the same performance enhancements required for any conditionally acceptable facility under the VSP program. As you will hear, the 2018 stipulated judgment is working at Rancho Cordova, with 4 good outside audits since the judgment. The stipulated judgment achieved what the VSP program states is its intended goal. The stipulated judgment satisfies the VSP regulations, and the Rancho Cordova facility should be permitted to operate under that framework. The VSP regulations allow for that outcome. There is also growing awareness that there are problems with the current VSP regulations, and specifically the methodology for calculating annual scores. DTSC announced on September 21st that it is revising the regulations as soon as next year, and it is accepting public comments now. Putting aside whether the VSP scoring system is in need of revision, there are at least 7 good reasons why the Rancho Cordova facility compliance tier assignments for 2019 and 2020 should be adjusted to conditionally acceptable, and the facility should remain operational under available regulatory exceptions. The primary reasons DTSC should adjust the 2019 and 2020 tier assignment to conditionally acceptable are set forth in slide 2. 1, the 2019 and 2020 annual VSP scores are based on a highly discretionary math formula that looks back 10 years, far longer than the statute of limitations allows, and ignores key facts and mitigation. There's too much discretion and not enough transparency in the mathematical process that looks back 5 years longer than the statute of limitations allows. 2, the facility qualifies for an exception under 22 CCR 66271.57 because it is operating safely and has been shown to be in compliance by independent auditors. DTSC told the public on September 21st that as a general principle, outside audits must be considered, but none of the 4 outside audits was considered by DTSC in its tier assignment for Rancho Cordova. 3, public support needs to be considered under SB 673. The reason the VSP program even exists is because of the 2015 law known as SB 673, which mandates that public support be considered in permitting. The agency did not consider the broad public support for this facility. 4, strong environmental justice characteristics need to be considered under SB 673. Again, DTSC overlooked a requirement of the enabling legislation. The agency failed to consider the facility's strong environmental justice scores, and this facility is one of the best in the state. 5, new ownership needs to be considered. Clean Earth just purchased the facility 18 to 19 months ago, subject to the 2018 stipulated judgment with DTSC. Clean Earth has a solid record throughout the state, and the new owner is entitled to an opportunity to perform. Just last month, during its public listening session on future revisions to the VSP regulations, DTSC indicated that the topic of new facility ownership is under consideration because it is unfair to punish owners for what happened 10 years ago. And we agree with that. 6, the importance of the facility to the public needs to be considered. Rancho Cordova serves an important role in household hazardous waste recycling across 20 California counties and supports the state's ambitious and still unmet recycling goals. And 7, the 2018 stipulated judgment needs to be considered. It has achieved the objectives of the VSP program, as shown by 4 audits demonstrating facility compliance. This hearing to challenge the VSP scores for Rancho Cordova covers 2 years, 2019 and 2020, which may sound odd, but there's a reason for that. As shown in slide 4, although the scoring process for each year started at different times, DTSC issued the final scores for both years on the same date, April 27, 2021. So the timelines effectively converged in early 2021. Based on discussions with DTSC, we agreed it would be more efficient to combine the hearing for each year's score into one, because the same issues and arguments will apply for both years. Now let me introduce the Rancho Cordova facility and its new owner, Clean Earth. One of the first noteworthy things about the Rancho Cordova facility is its ideal location. The facility is located in a rural, undeveloped area in eastern Rancho Cordova, about 10 miles east of Sacramento. These photographs on slide 5 depict what you would see if you were to walk outside the front door of the facility, looking around in all directions. There is a lot of open, undeveloped space, which, as we will discuss later, means the facility is exceptionally well positioned from an environmental justice perspective. This recent aerial photograph in slide 6 shows that the facility is co-located with a Stericycle medical waste transfer facility on White Rock Road, near a small campus of Aerojet industrial facilities. There are no nearby homes, schools, medical facilities, or other sensitive receptors. This aerial depiction of the Rancho Cordova facility in slide 7 is a longer range perspective that illustrates the facility's isolated location, with the closest significant development about 2 miles to the west. Next, let me introduce the new owner of the Rancho Cordova facility. The new owner is Clean Earth, which is a well-known company within California and nationally. As shown on slide 8, Clean Earth is a leading provider of regulated waste solutions in the US and has a broad range of waste capabilities. Clean Earth is using Rancho Cordova primarily as a household hazardous waste recycling facility. Clean Earth bought the facility after the 2018 stipulated judgment that requires regular outside audits. And all 4 audits since the 2018 stipulated judgment have been good. As shown on slide 9, Clean Earth has also been recognized by outside observers such as Newsweek and Construct Secure as a responsible company with a culture of safety. To set the stage, let me outline some basic facts about the Rancho Cordova facility in slide 10. The facility opened in 1983, which means that it's had approximately 38 years of operations. But the site is not contaminated or in need of cleanup. Rancho Cordova is one of only 24 commercial, 4 public household hazardous waste recycling facilities in California. There are not many of these facilities in the state. The facility's customers include over 38 California cities, counties, and agencies, including Sacramento County, Yolo County, San Joaquin County, Fresno County, and Placer County. Its biggest clients are municipalities. Slide 11 shows that from June 2020 through May 2021, approximately 2.8 million pounds of household hazardous waste was processed at the facility. Approximately 60% of the material processed at Rancho Cordova is recycled. Since 2018, there have been 4 independent DTSC mandated audit reports showing the facility is in compliance, but none was considered by DTSC. And so far in 2021, the facility has supported over 50 household hazardous waste roundups across 20 counties. The pictures on slide 12 are from a 2021 Clean Earth household hazardous waste roundup in Fresno County. Counties are the facility's biggest customers, and hazardous waste roundups are very popular with local communities and provide an important public service. Rancho Cordova provides household hazardous waste roundup and recycling services in a total of 20 of California's 58 counties. As you can see on slide 13, the geographic reach of this one facility across Central and Northern California is extensive. The value that the facility provides to the public and its recycling goals is important. Illegal dumping is a big issue in California. The 24 licensed facilities in California supporting household hazardous waste roundups provide an important public service that supports California's 75% recycling goal. This begs the question of where hazardous waste processed through Rancho Cordova would have to go if the facility were compelled by DTSC to close under the VSP program. Slide 14 illustrates that there are approximately 7 facilities handling similar waste streams that most likely would be selected by Rancho Cordova's customers as an alternative. These alternatives are not ideal because they involve 3 different states, California, Nevada, and Washington, and hundreds of miles of additional distances where the opportunity for transportation mishaps and carbon emissions increases. Or the temptation to cut corners with illegal dumping increases. An outside consultant, Ramboll, performed an analysis of the adverse impacts that facility closure would cause. We provided that report to DTSC. Let's look at that next. In 2019, Ramboll found 5 adverse major impacts if the facility were compelled to close, and they are outlined on slide 15. 1, longer shipping distances, which would increase pollutant and carbon emissions. 2, increased illegal dumping, because the harder it becomes for the public to recycle, the greater the temptation to cut corners. 3, there would be more out-of-state shipments to less regulated facilities. 4, there would be lost opportunities to collect and recycle waste in the current communities. 5, there would be impairment to California's statutory goal under AB 341 to achieve 75% source reduction, recycling, and composting by 2020. Keeping the facility open has a substantial and overriding benefit to the people of California. The graphs on slide 16 are the latest information from CalRecycle's website. CalRecycle indicates that recycling rates in the state have hovered around 50% since 2010 and started to head in the wrong direction in 2015 and 2016. California not only failed to achieve 75% recycling by 2020, it is falling short by about 30%. In this environment, we respectfully submit that the last thing DTSC should be doing through the VSP program is closing the limited number of available in-state recycling facilities. SB 673, which is the legislation that motivated DTSC to create the VSP program, never called for that outcome. Many of the public comments received by DTSC for today's public hearing effectively state that DTSC should hit the pause button if the VSP program is effectively calling for the closure of hazardous waste recycling facilities on day 1 of the program. That serves no one's purpose. In order to understand the VSP program, it is necessary to first look at the 2015 legislation, SB 673, that prompted DTSC to enact the VSP regulations. Slide 17 explains that the VSP program followed the well-documented failures of the Exide facility, which had significant releases of lead into several urban neighborhoods over many years. Slide 17 shows a picture of the Vernon facility, which closed in 2015 after 90 years of operations. And by the way, 2015 was the same year that SB 673 became law. The Exide facility operated with nothing more than an interim permit over 33 years. It never had a final permit. There were documented human exposures to harmful levels of lead almost 2 miles away. The adjoining neighborhoods openly opposed the facility for many years. And to make matters worse, the owners abandoned the property and left the state with a $450 million site cleanup. That's what led to the passage of SB 673, That's what motivated the law under which DTSC established the VSP regulations. Why is that background important to note? Because as we will show, the VSP program is threatening to close a permitted facility that is the complete opposite of Exide. Let's compare the Clean Earth Rancho Cordova facility with Exide. Slide 18 provides a side-by-side comparison of Exide and Rancho Cordova. As you can see here, the facilities are nothing alike. Exide involves a massive cleanup, but there is no cleanup required at Rancho Cordova. Rancho Cordova has been permitted for decades and agreed to increase DTSC oversight. Rancho Cordova is ideally located in a rural area. The closest other facilities are industrial, and the community broadly supports the facility. SB 673 was trying to close down the so-called Exide type facilities, the harmful unpermitted facilities, not the long permitted facilities providing benefits to the public and already subject to a compliance stipulation with DTSC. SB 673 outlines three major objectives shown in slide 19. 1, establish transparent standards for permitting. 2, enhance public involvement. And 3, better protect the public through environmental justice. The VSP scoring program primarily focuses on number 1 because environmental justice is ignored altogether in the scoring system, and public participation comes at the very end, and only if a facility challenges the VSP tier assignment. DTSC solicited no public input in forming its 2019 and 2020 annual scores or compliance tiers. It will listen to the public if the facility challenges its score, but it is not clear how DTSC weighs the public input at this very late stage. As we'll discuss, even with respect to the objective of establishing transparent permitting standards, the mathematical formula DTSC adopted in 2019 is anything but transparent and objective. Slide 20 illustrates what SB 673 requires and can be found at Health and Safety Code section 25200.21. DTSC must consider the 6 criteria of the enabling legislation on slide 20 in its permitting decisions, but DTSC doesn't. It doesn't consider any environmental justice factors, and it does not require a health risk assessment. The score completely ignores those statutory requirements. The failure of the agency to follow the enabling legislation is the first stage of our challenge. The second stage is that DTSC misapplied its own 2019 VSP regulations by creating a scoring system that in significant part is not found in its own regulations, making scoring and compliance tier determinations not supported by substantial evidence. Let's take a closer look at the overlooked environmental justice characteristics of the Rancho Cordova facility. The Rancho Cordova facility is one of the best locations for any permitted household hazardous waste facility in the state. As slide 21 shows, an outside consultant, Ramble, looked at the available Cali EPA database on each facility's environmental justice scores in the state, and it found Rancho Cordova to be the second best in the state for its peer group. Part of the reason is because the facility is situated well away from sensitive receptors. The aerial photograph in slide 22 illustrates that the facility is located almost 2 miles away from any sensitive receptors, 3.4 miles to the nearest hospital, 1.7 miles to the nearest resident school or elder care facility, and 1.6 miles to the nearest child care facility. This makes the facility ideally located, one of the best locations in the state. Slide 23 illustrates the relative rankings of the Rancho Cordova facility within its peer group of 24 commercial hazardous waste recyclers based on environmental justice data on Cal EPA's website. When SB 673 states that DTSC must consider environmental justice, why would DTSC not consider it in its scoring system and compliance tier assignments? That needs to be addressed. As slide 24 summarizes, there is broad public support for the continued operation of the Rancho Cordova facility. 25 letters of support from chambers of commerce, industry associations, trade groups, retailers, waste handling companies, recycling customers, and employees have been submitted and are part of the record today. Public support must be considered by DTSC, and the public support points to allowing the facility to continue to operate under the 2018 stipulated judgment with DTSC that was approved by a court. The next few slides are a bit technical and discuss DTSC's mathematical formula, but they are important to understanding how we arrived at an unacceptable score and tier assignment for a facility with 4 good DTSC required audits. The VSP scoring boils down to the math formula illustrated on slide 25. It has 3 basic inputs labeled as A, B, and C on the slide. The formula has a scoring matrix for alleged violations over the last 10 years, and that is multiplied by a multiplier, the combination of which is then divided by whatever qualifies as an inspection in the eyes of DTSC for the last 10 years. If that 3-variable equation is above 40, the facility is unacceptable under the VSP program and may be compelled to close unless DTSC elects to adjust the score or agrees that an exception applies. Now, why is the compliance threshold set at 40? Why not some other level? We asked DTSC on the September 21st Q&A session, and no one could answer that basic question. DTSC could have used a phase-in approach of thresholds that decline over time, but it didn't. It just said if you are above 40 on day 1, you are unacceptable and at risk of closure, regardless of how long you have been operating, regardless of where the facility is located, regardless of whether the public supports the facility, regardless of environmental justice considerations, and regardless of whether the facility helps the state meet its recycling objectives. Each of the 3 variables in slide 25 has a lot of subjectivity. 2 auditors looking at the exact same facility and 10-year period are likely to come up with dramatically different scores. For example, our consultant came up with scores of 17 and 27, compared to DTSC scores of 86 and 87 for 2019 and 2020. That is a 3-fold to 5-fold difference, looking at the exact same facts and applying the exact same formula. What could explain such dramatic differences? Slide 26 illustrates why VSP scoring is a black box that is hard to replicate between auditors. The 3 math inputs are identified on the left side of slide 26 as going into this black box. There's a vast amount of discretion for each of those 3 inputs. For example, DTSC can assign a score of 2 or 25 for any alleged violation. And it only takes 2 scores of 20 during 1 inspection in a single year to be on the wrong side of 40. There is also a lot of discretion on what's in and what's out for scoring purposes. For example, DTSC can toss out 4 outside independent audits that could dramatically decrease the score. The fact that a new owner purchases the facility is completely irrelevant to the math. Environmental justice and public support are completely irrelevant to the math. Whether an alleged violation is 10 years old or 10 days old is irrelevant to the math. Year after year, performance improvements can be irrelevant too. There can be no quick scoring turnarounds with the black box. It's a 10-year rolling average with small incremental changes year to year. Slide 27 illustrates the multiple layers of agency discretion in VSP scoring, some of which can be found in the VSP regulations and some of which fall outside of the regulations. But DTSC applied all of these layers of discretion to inflate the VSP score and to trigger an unacceptable compliance tier assignment for Rancho Cordova. We want to focus on just a few highly consequential examples of agency discretion. For example, on line 5, it is entirely within DTSC's discretion whether to find an allegation to be a repeat occurrence at any time over 10 years. DTSC has the discretion to effectively make 1 violation 2 violations. It can literally double the score. And that happened at Rancho Cordova. Another example is illustrated in line 7. Even though DTSC could not sue over any alleged violation that occurred more than 5 years ago, it chose to look back 10 years for purposes of calculating scores to close these same facilities administratively. That's a glaring legal and due process problem. Additionally, on line 8, any 10-year-old alleged violation carries the same weight as if it occurs today. DTSC is choosing to ignore any facility improvements or corrections to address old allegations. It doesn't matter for scoring purposes that a facility quickly improved in response to allegations. We submitted a detailed analysis into the record showing that if all the areas of discretion in this table were addressed, the VSP scores would have been 17 for 2019 and 27 for 2020. That information is outlined in the comprehensive scoring dispute documents that the facility submitted to DTSC in December 2019 and November 2020. It is becoming increasingly apparent that revisions need to be made to the VSP program. And the agency admits this point. In DTSC's September 21st public presentation, the agency pointed to a slide depicted in slide 28 concerning the possibility of a much shorter scoring period or taking account of legitimate changes of ownership. But that may only fix future scoring issues. It leaves facilities today that are subject to inaccurate 2019 and 2020 scores without a lot of options. Let's look more closely at a few other areas of discretion, some of which cannot be found in the VSP regulations. For example, most of the time spent in last month's DTSC public listening session on future VSP program revisions centered around the question of what the divisor in the mathematical formula should be. It is a simple proposition. If you divide everything by the number of inspections, the number of inspections is crucial to a facility's score and VSP compliance tier assignment. Slide 29 illustrates that nearly half of DTSC's inspections in the last 10 years at Rancho Cordova were tossed out because DTSC determined those inspections should be wrapped into some other inspection. Even though they were done months apart or for different purposes and had separate inspection findings. Also, DTSC ignored all outside independent audits that it mandated under the 2018 stipulated judgment. Rancho Cordova's VSP scores would be cut nearly in half if that one variable in the math formula were adjusted. Stated differently, we would be on the verge of conditional acceptability based on correcting that one variable alone. So what is the lesson here? First, DTSC cannot exclude as irrelevant independent audits, especially those that DTSC mandates. And second, financial audits are a key element of the permitting program, and DTSC must consider them as audits in calculating VSP scores. Failing to do so is not sufficiently objective or consistent with DTSC's own regulations. As the public stated to DTSC last month in the listening session, scoring between facilities can vary significantly because it depends heavily on the auditor. We asked a consultant to look at Rancho Cordova and calculate the VSP score for 2019 and 2020. If you put those scores side by side with the DTSC auditors in slide 30, the differences are astounding. 3 times or 5 times differences. I'm sure critics would say that's because you hired the consultant. But what a fair-minded person should say is, are we well served with a scoring system in which 2 auditors looking at the same facility, facts, and time period can obtain 5 times differences? And should closure decisions be made on such a system alone? The scoring by Claris Management Solutions was provided to DTSC, but it was ignored. Another area of broad agency discretion relates to what DTSC defines as Class 1 violation. Under the regulations that fall outside of the VSP program, Class 1 violations are supposed to be violations that, quote, represent a significant threat to human health or safety or the environment. But as shown on slide 31, for purposes of the VSP program, everything other than, quote, small deficiencies in record keeping is treated as a Class 1 violation. And those are DTSC's words. Even Class 2 violations can be upgraded to Class 1 for VSP scoring purposes at the discretion of DTSC. And that was done at Rancho Cordova. And the scores for Class 1 violations range from 2 to 25 points. 25 is the highest a facility can get for a violation, meaning the worst category of threat to human health, safety, or the environment. For context, think Exide or an explosion at a facility for a maximum score. But in the world of VSP, a dented can qualifies as a Class 1 violation. Slide 31 includes an actual 2020 photo from DTSC's inspection report at Rancho Cordova that shows a dented plastic can that DTSC cited as an alleged Class 1 violation. And on the other end of the scoring spectrum, DTSC assigned a maximum score of 25 for an employee missing an 8-hour HAZWOPER training. And then DTSC applied a multiplier of 50%. That one single alleged training violation resulted in a score of 37.5. So instead of reserving a score of 25 for things like Exide, DTSC chose to assign scores above the 25 maximum for late training for 3 employees. In sum, what qualifies as a Class 1 violation needs more objectivity. All of the broadly defined Class 1 alleged violations, which need not be proven, are filtered through the matrix shown in slide 32. You will not find this matrix in the VSP regulations, but it is a centerpiece of the scoring system, and that's a problem. Because the possible scores of 2, 6, 15, 20, and 25 are not found in the regulations, DTSC could conceivably change them to something else overnight. And DTSC misused the discretion in this matrix to overstate the scores for Rancho Cordova. Scoring problems like this is why pressure is building for changes to the VSP program as early as next year. Let's look at the consequence of all of this. We were curious to see how long it would take for Rancho Cordova's 2019 and 2020 VSP scores to drop below 40 if compliance is absolutely perfect every year going forward. So we calculated it in slide 33. Because DTSC chose a 10-year rolling average for annual scores, it would not be possible for the Rancho Cordova facility to drop below 40 until 2027, 6 years from now. In fact, this month we received the 2021 VSP score, and it is exactly what we predicted in this chart on slide 33. Nothing in SB 673 mandates a 10-year rolling average. That was a choice that DTSC made that prevents prompt facility turnarounds. That is fundamentally unfair to any new owner. So we find ourselves in the strange situation where we have 4 independent audits showing compliance under the 2018 stipulated judgment with DTSC on the one hand, but on the other hand, DTSC's math formula is telling us that it is impossible to be in compliance for the next 6 years, and we may be compelled to close regardless of the 2018 stipulated judgment and good outside audits. Those 2 inconsistencies simply cannot coexist under SB 673. Now I'm going to shift from the facility's mathematical objections and talk about what we think DTSC should do in response to this challenge. In our view, there are 4 options. 1, DTSC could adjust the scoring and compliance tier mathematically. 2, even if it doesn't adjust the scoring, DTSC could find that the exception in the VSP regulations at section 66271.57D applies. 3, it could find that the exception in the VSP regulations at section 66271.57G applies. Or 4, DTSC could abide by the 2018 stipulation. For the reasons we have explained in this presentation, we believe DTSC should mathematically adjust the score, but the last 3 options don't require DTSC to make any mathematical adjustments. Let's look at those closer. The Rancho Cordova facility satisfies the exception in section 66271.57D of the VSP regulations, which allows a facility to continue operations under a conditionally acceptable compliance tier if the 5 criteria shown on slide 34 are satisfied. We can demonstrate that Rancho Cordova has already satisfied all 5 criteria on slide 34. 4 of the 5 are demonstrated by the 4 good DTSC mandated audits required by the 2018 stipulated judgment. The VSP regulation requires at least 1 audit demonstrating compliance. We have 4. The 4 audits show that the facility is in compliance with its permit and applicable laws, and that it can be operated safely. None of the 4 audits was considered for VSP evaluation purposes by DTSC. They need to be, at least for this regulatory exception. The key conclusions for the 2019 and 2020 outside audits are illustrated on slide 35. These outside audits were required by DTSC as part of the 2018 stipulated judgment, and the audits found the facility to be in compliance. The 4 outside audits satisfy 4 of the 5 criteria in section 66271.57D. The 5th criterion is satisfied with a satisfactory 2021 DTSC financial responsibility audit of the facility. Slide 36 highlights that in April 2021, DTSC performed a financial responsibility review of the Rancho Cordova facility and confirmed that the facility is in compliance with its financial assurance requirements. Thus, all 5 criteria are satisfied under the 2019 VSP regulations for continued operation of the Rancho Cordova facility by its new Clean Earth ownership under section 66271.57D. Even if DTSC doesn't change the 2019-2020 VSP scores, there is a second exception in the VSP regulations that allows continued performance of the facility. It is under section 66271.57G. The criteria for the second exception are illustrated here in slide 37. It turns on whether there are enforceable improvements at the facility, which the 2018 stipulated judgment clearly provides, and whether the facility offers substantial public benefits, which the facility's hazardous waste recycling services in 20 counties clearly satisfies. And as the 2019 Ramble report indicates, the Rancho Cordova facility is an important component in the state's recycling goals, and fewer available facilities is not a good outcome. Let's look at the last and perhaps best option, the October 2018 stipulated judgment. The October 2018 stipulated judgment with DTSC was filed in and approved by the court. The cover page is shown on slide 38. The October 2018 stipulated judgment predated the VSP program by only 3 months. It settled all past facility compliance allegations, and the prior owner paid a penalty. It imposed increased and enforceable facility training, auditing, and compliance requirements, the same things the VSP program seeks. And not to be forgotten, it's working. There have been 4 good audits in the last 3 years under the 2018 stipulation. And lastly, the 2018 stipulation is already providing the equivalent of DTSC's permit conditions necessary for a facility placed in the conditionally acceptable compliance tier. The reason we know that to be true is because DTSC said as much only last month to the public on September 21st. Let's look at DTSC's own statement on what the VSP conditionally acceptable tier requires. Slide 39 is a DTSC slide that was shown to the public on September 21st. It states that facilities in the conditionally acceptable compliance tier will be expected to submit independent audits and improvements must be enforceable. Precisely the outcome DTSC already achieved at Rancho Cordova through the 2018 stipulated judgment, for which the last 3 years has been shown to be working. In short, the Rancho Cordova facility satisfies all the criteria in section 66271.57G for continued permit operations because the 2018 stipulated judgment provides the enforceable improvements and the facility is serving an important recycling function. Unless DTSC takes the 2018 stipulated judgment into account for purposes of the VSP program, it will be sending a mixed message. That mixed message is shown on slide 40. How can a facility operating under new ownership and extraordinary compliance conditions that are working under a 2018 DTSC stipulated judgment simultaneously be scored unacceptable today and for the next 6 years? Something has to give. And we submit DTSC would be better served by relying on the stipulated judgment that was judicially approved only 3 months before the VSP program. We also understand that a new law will take effect in only 3 months from now, on January 1st, 2022, known as AB 158. As shown on slide 41, AB 158 creates a new oversight board for DTSC's permitting decisions. We think this future change is another reason to abide by the 2018 stipulated judgment and not apply the VSP program that followed 3 months later in a manner to unravel the stipulated judgment, which is working. To conclude, in slides 42 and 43, there are compelling reasons why DTSC should either adjust the Rancho Cordova facility's compliance tier assignment to conditionally acceptable or apply one of the 2 exceptions for continued operations in the VSP regulations found in section 66271.57. 1, VSP scoring as currently calculated in 2019 and 2020 is not sufficiently objective and transparent to warrant facility closure. It fails to consider environmental justice, where the facility is the top 2 of 24 in the state, public support, the facility's value to California household hazardous waste recycling, its new ownership, and the 4 good outside audits. 2, as a first regulatory exception, the facility satisfies the 5 criteria under section 22 CCR 66271.57D for continued permitted operations because of the 4 good outside audits and the successful DTSC 2021 financial responsibility audit. 3, as the second regulatory exception, the facility satisfies the criteria of 22 CCR section 66271.57G for continued permit operations because the 2018 stipulated judgment provides enforceable improvements and the facility serves an important public recycling purpose. 4, and lastly, the agency should abide by the 2018 stipulated judgment because it already achieves the purpose of the VSP program and imposed suitable permit conditions for a conditionally acceptable facility. That concludes the Clean Earth challenges to the 2019 and 2020 compliance tier assignments. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Daniel. We appreciate you being here. We really do.
Thank you.
We're now going to go ahead and go back to our slides. When we pull them up, we'll be on slide 26, which is the Q&A portion of tonight's meeting. If you have a comment only, we ask that you hold your comment for the public comment section after the break. This slide provides an overview of the 3 ways that you can ask a question at this time. You can use the Zoom audio by using the raise hand feature at the bottom of your screen. When it's your turn, you'll be invited to unmute your audio. For anyone calling in by phone, you can press *9 to raise your hand. And when it's your turn, I'll call on you by calling out the last 3 numbers of your phone number. And then you'll be able to press *6 to unmute your phone. If you prefer to have your question read by me, you can type it into the question and answer feature at the bottom of your screen. Just click on the box and type in your question and I'll read it out loud for you. On the next slide, we'll have some visuals showing you how you can access these features. Next slide, please. If you join by computer, you'll see the raise hand and Q&A icons at the bottom of your screen. Using your keyboard, you can also press Alt-Y to raise your hand. And if you're using the Zoom app on your smartphone, the icons will be in the toolbar as well. You may need to click on more or slide the screen to get to those features. If you're dialing in, again, you can press *9 to raise your hand. Next slide, please. So as we start to take questions, I'll invite Ryan Batty, Supervising Hazardous Substances Engineer for DTSC, to turn on his audio and his video. Ryan will be fielding the questions this evening. Again, if you have a comment only, we ask that you save it for the public comment section after the break. And we'll give it a few moments. I know that some people have a lot of things going on. You might have to take a moment, so we'll give you all a moment. And again, I do want to thank Daniel for his presentation. There's a lot of information. I really appreciate that. Well, it doesn't look like we have any questions, so we'll go ahead and take a break. When we go to the next slide, we'll take a 5-minute break and we'll come back and then we'll go to public comment. Thank you. All right, thank you, everyone. We're back from our break. I do see that we had a hand up from someone named Averil Rance. If you want to go ahead and raise your hand again, if you still have a question, we can take your question. But there is a question in the Q&A box from Franklin Boning. The question is, if DTSC initiates a permit denial revocation process following a tier challenge, what does that procedure look like and what is the time frame?
Sure, thanks, Jerry. And just for everyone's benefit, my name's Ryan Batty. I'm a supervisor in the permitting division at DTSC. So I gather the question is asking if DTSC decides that to keep the tier as unacceptable, what would be the next step? So as Daniel indicated in his presentation, DTSC would proceed to follow the the regulations in 66261.57G, which basically means DTSC would have to make a determination whether Jim could show that the criteria in subsection G can be satisfied. So we would have to make that determination internally with our team, looking at the facts and the circumstances. And then obviously there'd be two potential outcomes. One would be if we were so inclined, we could look to propose a 5-year permit, or alternatively, we would initiate a process to deny a permit. So basically, we would follow the regulations in subsection G.
Great. Thank you so much, Ryan. Sean Birchall, I'll ask you to go ahead and unmute your microphone and either state your question or your comment. I don't know what you had first.
Yes. Can everyone hear me?
Yes. Go ahead.
Okay. I had a comment rather than a question, so I don't know whether I'm jumping the queue.
You're perfectly fine. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, hello, everyone. My name's Sean Birchall. I'm the Northern California account manager for Clean Earth. I've been with the company since mid-January, so not too long. Before joining Clean Earth, I was involved in the product stewardship, producer responsibility sector, where I spent 20 years. I looked hard and long at Clean Earth before making the switch. The name was new to me, and it was important for me to understand how they operate and what their environmental ethos was all about. From the short time I've been with Clean Earth, I can say without doubt that they care about the employees, also making sure that people do things in proper and regulated fashion. I can also say that I've never been involved with a company that puts so much emphasis into training its employees on both environmental regulation and general business ethics. As most on this call are aware, the main use of the Rancho facility is to largely support and take in household hazardous waste from its many municipality customers in Northern California. These municipality customers include over 38 cities, counties, and agencies. These include Santa Clara County, Nortec Waste, West County Resource Recovery, Napa Viejo, San Joaquin County, Yolo County, Sacramento County, Novato Sanitary District, Delta Diablo, Recology, San Benito County, Humboldt Waste Management. The facility also conducts household hazardous waste roundups with municipalities, so residents can safely dispose of hazardous waste from their homes. Things like paint, batteries, pesticides, cleaners, and aerosol cans, along with many other materials that are considered hazardous, are received at the Rancho complex. So far in 2021, the facility has supported over 50 household hazardous waste collection events and roundups. We are now also beginning to see an uptick in collections after COVID. This could be due in part to people hoarding their household hazardous waste during that time. As mentioned, I come from a product stewardship background, and to that end, I believe there's an interconnectedness within the different environmental sectors. As an example, for many years of attending various state and national conferences like the CRRA, the Oil and HHW Conference, the NAMA conferences, along with working with California Product Stewardship Council and other California state agencies such as CalRecycle, different groups come together to discuss various topics and find answers to difficult issues we face, be it in the HHW world, the product stewardship, or recycling world. My fear here is that by considering the possible closure of Rancho facility, all the policy making, the building of relationships, and the education and outreach we've all been involved with over the years, setting up these working relationships may very well damage our ability to carry on with those retail take-back programs we have in place in our municipal customers in a number of ways. Mainly, the ease and flexibility that consumers and local community currently have in dropping off their household batteries, lamps, bulbs, mercury thermostats, etc. There would be a need to re-examine both the environmental and economic challenges of transporting these products to other facilities further afield. Therefore, I would ask the DTSC to also take into consideration the real consequences of possibly losing what we've all worked hard to create. Clean Earth looks forward to working with DTSC to continue to allow this facility to operate with DTSC oversight to help California meet its recycling goals. Thank you for allowing me to speak and for your time this evening. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sean. We really do appreciate your comment. And I want to take a step back a little bit to the question and answers. I know we had very little to no questions, but Avril Rance, you've been having your hand pop up and down. I'd like to invite you to open your microphone and go ahead and state your question at this time.
So I just wanted to make a public comment.
Okay, go right ahead.
Okay, thank you. So my name is Avril Rance, and I work for Clean Earth. I'm the Senior Vice President for Environmental Health and Safety. I interface with the President and the board on a regular basis regarding EH&S issues. I've been working with EH&S in that function for in excess of 30 plus years. With many of the companies that operated this very facility, years before Stericycle purchased GEM. I know we can operate this facility in compliance with environmental regulations, permits, safely, because I was part of the team that did it for many years in the 1990s and early 2000s. Clean Earth purchased GEM in early 2020. We have just under 3,000 team members to date nationwide. We are a leading provider of environmental and regulated waste management solutions throughout the world as part of Harsco Corporation's global operations. Again, the core focus of Harsco's worldwide business is to minimize the environmental impact of waste and industrial co-products through the recycling and repurposing. Again, the key focus here is to protect human health and the environment. Clean Earth provides environmental solutions for specialty waste streams, including hazardous waste. We have 88 waste management sites across the United States. We have 19 federally and state permitted RCRA treatment, storage, and disposal facilities. We have in excess of 1,000 trucks, a fleet that ensures that waste is handled from the generator right to the Clean Earth facilities that manage those waste streams. EH&S and sustainability is a foundational part of Harsco Clean Earth's business practice and underpins everything that we do. It is core to what we refer to as our Harsco Triangle. There are two things that are key or core to our values, and it's EH&S and continuous improvement. What does that mean? Well, environmental health and safety means discipline programs and procedures that align with our organizational commitment to zero harm to people and to our planet. What does continuous improvement mean? The relentless pursuit of improvement of all aspects of our business. So I just wanted to point that out, that these two things, EH&S and continuous improvement, are our core values, among other things, that are incorporated into our Harsco, Clean Earth Harsco GEM triangle. In the environmental area, we are committed to delivering the highest quality environmental management in our operations and to ensuring compliance with all environmental regulations. We have a culture of compliance. If something is not right, the culture is I shut it down. I make sure my team members understand that it's the right response. Clean Earth uses a robust environmental health and safety management system You will, if you allow the facility to stay open, you'll hear the acronym that we utilize to describe our system. It's called SEM, simply means Safety and Environmental Management System. We use that system, that computerized database, to track all of our deadlines, requirements, track leading indicators, manage compliance checkpoints as well. Through robust facility audit programs with internal and external auditors, we identify weak points in compliance efforts and track progress on improvement goals. We have a structured MOC process known as a management of change process. Drives operational updates, onboards new leadership, and focus on EH&S and operational improvements. I will say that EH&S and operations is tied at the hip so that we are aligned. In 2021, Newsweek, as one of the America's most responsible companies for providing essential services and safety measures to customers, employees, while striving to achieve our sustainability goals. So that was a very, very prestigious award that we received. Our vision is to be sustainable leader in our industry. Every day we partner with our customers to manage and mitigate their most complex sustainability challenges. We continually assess and seek to minimize the environmental impact of our facilities and products for the benefit of our customers, our team members, neighbors, and communities. We have set a number of sustainability goals for our company. Excuse me. Recycle or repurpose more than 75% of the waste and byproduct materials we process annually. In 2020, Clean Earth successfully recycled 94% of the material we processed. Reduce the energy and carbon intensity of our operations by 15% by 2025. Avoid over 25 million tons of carbon emissions from our recycling and repurposing solutions from 2019 to 2025. Again, contribute over 10,000 hours of employee volunteer service with community organizations. Safety is paramount importance in everything we do. Our vision is to eliminate workplace injuries and illness through a sustainable, safe culture that is embedded in our core values of our business. Our commitment to the workplace health and safety is grounded in our belief that all workplace injuries and illnesses are preventable. One of our key values that is part of our culture of safety is all team members have stop work authority and will not be challenged as a result of stopping work. In summary, Clean Earth's Rancho Cordova facility largely supports household hazardous waste recycling to Central and Northern California. The Rancho Cordova plant is an important part of California's recycling infrastructure, providing a local outlet for communities, businesses, and the public to recycle its unwanted and dangerous waste or substances. Clean Earth is proud to be running this facility and has upgraded the operations over the last 18 months. A total of 4 independent outside audits in the last 3 years show the facility is operating in compliance and will continue to operate in compliance. In conclusion, Clean Earth looks forward to working with DTSC to continue to allow the facility to operate with DTSC's oversight to help California meet its recycling goals. So please, I ask you, let's do that. I would like to thank you for the opportunity to speak on behalf of the Clean Earth GEM Rancho Cordova facility. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You're very welcome. We definitely embrace and welcome all of your comments. At this time, I'm going to assume there's no more questions. We're going to move on to the formal comment portion of our meeting. So just as a reminder, this meeting is being recorded to help capture all of the public comments. And we're looking for input on, whether DTSC should change the compliance tier or leave it as is. And then we'll go to the next slide. Just to cover real quick too, how you can submit a public comment outside of this public meeting. You can, during this public meeting, you can use the Zoom audio as we're doing now. You can use the Q&A to type it in your comment, and I can read it out loud for you. Alternately, you can make a phone call or send an email to Nadine Doman. Her email is nadine.doman@dtsc.ca.gov. And her phone number is 916-255-4905. We'll go ahead and put that in the chat for you also. And all public comments must be received by tonight, midnight, October 28th, 2021. On the next slide, we had prepared for you is just the overview of how you do your public comments. So we'll go to the next slide, which is the same as the Q&A that we had one question on, so that's okay. So going forward with our public comment portion of our meeting, I'll go ahead and ask Chendi Chea to go ahead and unmute your audio and go ahead and state your comment.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Chendi Chea, and I've been working with Clean Earth for the past 3+ years as a facility manager. And I've had the pleasure of working at the Rancho Facility GEM location for the last 8 months. Quick background on Clean Earth and what we do. I mean, we pride ourselves to be a great environmental company by staying in compliance and staying safe at all times. One of our models is to do the right thing. And what do we mean by that is by following the strict rules, regulations, trainings, procedures, everything that is set forth for us to do. And we actually teach that to every level of employment here at Clean Earth. We are currently implementing positive changes throughout the facility, including improvements with trainings, procedures, staffing, and really rebuilding the culture as we keep on continuing to work on our overall continuous improvement. If the GEM facility is to close down, currently we employ over 100 employees. There is a potential for some of these dedicated, hardworking employees losing their jobs. And that will put a burden on them, especially with the trying times that we're having right now. We at Clean Earth, we are turning the corner, and all we're asking for is an opportunity to continue to improve on the facility's operations and the chance for us to continue building the positive culture that we're currently working on. And all we're asking is just for another chance. So thank you everyone for your time. Have a great night.
You too. Thank you so much, Chendi. We'll go to Timothy Murphy. Go ahead and unmute your microphone and have your state your comment, please.
Good evening. I am the CEO for the Sacramento Regional Builders Exchange. We were founded actually on this date in 1901. It's our 120th anniversary today. And we serve more than 900 member companies in the greater Sacramento region. We are the industry's oldest and largest association in the construction area. On behalf of our members, we respectfully request that the decision to shutter the Clean Earth facility in Rancho Cordova be reconsidered. Clean Earth plays a very important role throughout Northern California for specialized waste disposal. If closed, the ripple effects would be significant and costly. For example, for my members in the painting industry, Clean Earth's paint stewardship program is a highly valued program. If the facility is denied a permit to operate and municipalities don't have an alternate provider, these hazardous wastes could end up in the landfill or be illegally dumped. The area-wide illegal dumping analysis report for the city of Sacramento and the county of Sacramento has noted that illegal dumping has risen by 32% since 2015. Closing Clean Earth could cause this number to drastically increase. As it is, the city and county of Sacramento have spent nearly $1.4 million to clean up illegally dumped waste in 2017, with an additional $600,000 on enforcement. Closing the facility would place the financial burden of cleaning illegal dump sites squarely on business owners and taxpayers. We do note that the legislator has passed and the governor has signed legislation which changes the way in which the scoring system is handled for DTSC. That law takes effect 68 days from today. If this new law were in effect at the time of the hearing, the 10-year-old allegation would not be considered in the scoring and Clean Earth would not be in jeopardy of losing their permit. Multiple outside independent audits have demonstrated the Clean Earth facility is complying, is well run, and is protective of the environment. We strongly request that you reconsider the decision to close this facility. Thank you for the opportunity to express our support for Clean Earth.
Thank you so much, Timothy, for your comment. We'll go ahead to Michelle Smira, please.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can. Go ahead.
And just for the record, my name is Wesley. I'm logged into the wrong Zoom account.
Okay, no problem.
I'm calling on behalf of the R Street Sacramento Partnership. We are a property business improvement district in downtown Sacramento. Within our 17-block corridor, we represent several hundred property owners, business owners, and residents. Part of our role as a PBID is to provide programs aimed at increasing commercial activity and ensuring our residents and businesses have the resources they need to thrive. One of those resources is the Clean Earth facility in Rancho Cordova. We rely on this facility for disposal of hazardous waste that's been illegally dumped on our streets. If the facility were to close, the harmful impacts of illegal dumping will increase and the financial burden to truck it to another facility will be placed on our businesses and residents. Clean Earth plays a very important role for our members, and if closed, our community will be severely impacted. I respectfully ask for your support in ensuring this facility remains open. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Michelle. Sorry, can you go ahead and state your full name and your company? That way we can get it for the record.
Sure. Wesley Fagundes with the R Street Sacramento Partnership.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Next, we have Diane Rogers.
Yes, good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to speak with you all today. I'm the president and CEO of the Rancho Cordova Area Chamber of Commerce, and on behalf of the Chamber of Commerce, we'd like to convey our support for keeping Clean Earth, the Rancho Cordova facility, open. Our chamber represents not only Rancho Cordova, but surrounding areas of about 115,000 businesses and individuals. We're concerned about the impact of closing this facility. Many employees reside locally, patronize our local businesses, and are active with community organizations and call the Rancho Cordova area home. We fear that many will leave this area if the facility is closed. The action would be detrimental to the local community and economy. We urge that any decision you make to please take this into account. It's also vital to consider the dual impact of closing the facility, the economic impact that we have referenced, and the effect on waste collection. Clean Earth brings in $13 million per year to the region through wages, operational support goods and services, taxes, and disposal fees. The cost of collection would increase, as would the polluting impact of transporting the waste beyond this area. Enabling Clean Earth to remain open means waste will be disposed of properly and not dumped illegally into our watersheds, which would obviously cause further pollution. Paint, asbestos, medical waste, commercial cleaning compounds can contaminate surface and groundwaters and ultimately impact our own drinking water. The facility processes over 2.8 million pounds of household hazardous waste that would otherwise not have been properly recycled. We respectfully request that the Clean Earth Rancho Cordova facility remain open and remain a contributing member of our community. I thank you for your consideration, and I wanted to add one comment that today I spoke to one of our local waste haulers. I was explaining to them that I would be on this call this evening, and the immediate reaction was the very strong reaction to the potential increase of costs and high transportation and the the environmental impact of increasing transportation costs. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Diane. So we do have the time. If you have a comment that you want to type into the Q&A, we can read it out loud. Again, if you need to raise your hand and state your comment out loud, now's your chance. We do have some more time slotted out for availability for you to make a comment. While we wait to see if anybody else has a comment, I just do want to thank everyone again for taking the time to be with us. I know that with everything going on in the world, we're, dealing with a lot of virtual meetings, and we really appreciate the dedication that you've all shown to this process. But seeing no hands raised and no questions typed in, I'm going to ask to go to the next slide, and we'll go ahead and wrap up our meeting. Please do check the Envirostore database in about a week. The recording of this meeting will be available there for public view. And I guess that's it. Good night, everybody. Thank you so much. Please be safe and take care.